There are moments in life that split your world into two halves: the person you were before and the wreckage they left after. The night my sister put handcuffs on my wrists in front of my entire family, that was my moment. I remember every single detail: the smell of my mother's biryani still drifting from the kitchen, the flicker of the candle at the center of the table, the laughter. God, there was so much laughter right before it all shattered. My name is Sarah, and I want to tell you something before I begin. This is not just a story about revenge. This is a story about identity, about who you are when someone tries to erase you. I grew up as the quiet one, the invisible one. In a family of loud personalities and louder opinions, I learned early that silence was my armor. My older sister, Nadia, she was the golden one, the charming one, the one who got the applause at every dinner table. She joined the police force 5 years ago, and overnight she became the family hero. Every celebration, every gathering, every holiday, it was always about Nadia, her uniform, her badge, her stories from the precinct. And I let it be, because I had my own world, a world I had built, quietly, carefully, in the years she wasn't watching. But what I didn't know that day, what none of us knew, was that Nadia had been carrying something dark inside her for a very long time. It was a Friday evening. My mother had insisted on a family dinner, one of those rare occasions where everyone had to be present: my aunts, my cousins, my mother's oldest friends. The table was full. The room was warm. I had flown in 2 days before. I hadn't been home in almost a year. My work kept me away. It always did. But this time I came quietly, without announcements, without explanations. I sat at the corner of the table like I always had, watching, listening, smiling when smiled at. That's when Nadia walked in. She was in full uniform, strange for a family dinner, but that was Nadia. She loved the entrance. She loved the way heads turned. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kissing my mother on the cheek. "Had to come straight from the station." Everyone clapped. Someone made a joke about her being the most important person in the room. She smiled. But when her eyes landed on me, across the table, quiet in my corner, that smile changed. It hardened. I felt it, that familiar cold, the way she looked at me like I was something she needed to deal with. I looked away and reached for my tea. Halfway through dinner, she stood up and cleared her throat. The table fell quiet. "I need everyone to stay calm," she said. Her voice was official now, cold, professional. "Sarah, I need you to stand up, please." I looked at her. The whole table looked at me. "Nadia, what is—" "Stand up, Sarah, now." I stood. My heart was pounding. I didn't understand. She walked around the table, reached into her belt, and in front of my mother, my aunts, my cousins, my entire family, she took out a pair of handcuffs. The room went completely silent. My mother made a sound like something inside her broke. "You're being detained for questioning," Nadia said, snapping one cuff around my wrist. "There are allegations that need to be addressed." And then she smiled, just for a second, just for me. A small, private, satisfied smile. That's when I understood. This wasn't procedure. This wasn't justice. This was Nadia's revenge for something I didn't even know she resented me for. And as she led me toward the door, I heard my family whispering behind me. I heard my mother crying. I felt the weight of every confused, horrified eye in that room. And I walked, head down, hands bound, but not broken. Not yet. And not for long. They took me to a small room at the local precinct. Not a cell, a gray room with a table and 2 chairs and a camera in the corner. I sat there for 40 minutes, alone. In the quiet, I let myself feel everything: the shame, the confusion, the humiliation. I let it wash over me completely. Because I had learned a long time ago that you cannot fight what you refuse to feel. Nadia came in eventually. She had taken off her jacket. She sat across from me like I was a stranger. "You should have stayed away," she said. "You should have stayed in your little world, Sarah, far from here." "What did I do, Nadia?" I asked her. My voice was steady, I surprised myself. "You exist," she said, and then she laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. "You exist, and everyone treats you like you're something special, like you're carrying some big secret, and I'm just the sister, the loud one, the one who tries." And there it was. That was the wound Nadia had been pressing on for years without ever telling me. Not something I had done, not some real crime, just the fact of me, the quiet, unbothered fact of my life, lived away from home, lived without explanation, had become, in her mind, something threatening. She had always wanted to be the most important person in every room, and somehow, in her story, I had taken that from her, without even trying. She told me she had filed a report, that she had told her supervisor I was involved in some financial irregularity, something vague, something she had constructed carefully using fragments of truth twisted into a shape that barely resembled reality. She had used her badge to do it, her uniform, the very thing her whole family celebrated her for. She had used it as a weapon against her own sister. "This will take weeks to sort out," she told me, crossing her arms. "Maybe longer, and by then people will already know. They'll already have made up their minds." She stood up. "I just wanted you to know what it feels like, to walk into a room and not be the most powerful person in it." She left. The door clicked shut behind her. I sat there in the silence, and I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not panic, something quieter and more dangerous than either of those things. Clarity. Here is what Nadia never knew about me, what no one in my family knew, because I had never told them, never announced it, never needed to. For the past 6 years, I had been serving in a military intelligence division. I had risen through the ranks quietly, the way I had done everything in my life. I had reached a position that most people spend their entire careers working toward. I was a general, not a retired general, not an honorary title, an active, ranked, serving general, with clearances, with authority, with people who reported to me every single morning. I had come home for this dinner wearing civilian clothes because I was on personal leave, because I wanted one quiet evening with my family, because despite everything, I still loved them. But Nadia had made a choice tonight. She had made it in front of witnesses. She had made it in uniform, on record, with a camera running. And now the clarity settled over me like armor. I asked for my phone. They gave it to me. I wasn't under arrest, just detained for questioning. A civilian might not have known the difference. I did. I made one call. I kept my voice low. I kept it very short. Then I put the phone down on the table, folded my hands, and waited. 17 minutes. That is how long it took. I heard the commotion outside before I saw anything. Voices, doors, the sound of boots on a hard floor. And then the door to my gray room swung open. It was Nadia's captain. He was a tall man, serious face, many years on the force. The kind of man who did not rattle easily. He rattled now. He stood in the doorway and looked at me, really looked at me for what I suspected was the first time, and then he came to attention, shoulders back, chin up, a full formal salute. "General," he said, "we were not informed of your identity. I apologize sincerely for any—" "Where is Officer Nadia?" I said, still quiet, still calm. He stepped aside, and there she was, just outside the door, in her uniform, with her badge, and every ounce of color had drained from her face. I want you to understand something about that moment. I did not feel triumph, not the way you might imagine, not some burning, victorious rush. What I felt was something much sadder, much older, the kind of feeling you get when something you always hoped would never be true turns out to be completely, undeniably real. My sister had tried to destroy me, and she had done it with a smile. I walked out of that gray room. The captain stepped back. 2 officers stood at attention. 3 other staff members had gathered in the corridor, drawn by the commotion, frozen now in stillness. Nadia stood there in the middle of all of them. She looked at the captain. She looked at the officers. She looked at me. And I watched the story she had always told herself, the story where she was the important one, the powerful one, the one who finally had the upper hand. I watched it collapse in real time, right there in that corridor. "Sarah," she started. "Officer Nadia," I said. Just that. Her professional title, her rank, nothing else. She flinched like I had struck her. The captain cleared his throat. "General, the report filed this evening will be reviewed immediately. Officer Nadia will be placed on administrative leave pending a formal investigation into the conduct that led to your—" "Captain," I stopped him. "I will not be pressing charges." He looked at me surprised. Nadia looked at me more surprised. "This matter will be handled within the appropriate channels," I continued. "I trust you to ensure that happens, but I am done here tonight." I picked up my things from the front desk. I signed one form, and then I walked out into the night air, free, unhurried, unchanged. The investigation that followed was thorough. The false report Nadia had filed was examined, pulled apart, and found to be without any factual foundation. It was also found to have been filed with full knowledge that the subject, me, had not committed any infraction. Using a badge for personal retaliation, misuse of official procedures, conduct unbecoming. Those were the formal findings. Nadia was suspended, formally, on record, in the system she had spent 5 years building her identity around. I was not there when she received the news. I had already gone back to my own world, the one she never knew about, the one she had underestimated so completely. My mother called me that night. She was crying. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asked. "Why didn't you ever tell us who you were?" I thought about that for a long moment. "Because I didn't need you to know," I told her. "I just needed to be your daughter." She cried harder after that, but it was a different kind of crying. People ask me sometimes, do I regret not exposing Nadia more publicly? Do I wish I had made more of a scene? Do I wish I had made her feel the full weight of what she had tried to do to me? Honestly, no. Because the scene she created herself, in front of our family, in her own precinct, with her own colleagues watching, was already more than enough. The look on her face when the captain saluted me was not something I could have scripted or planned or wished into existence. That moment was hers. She had built it herself. Every choice she made, every step she took, all of it had led her there. I just happened to be standing on the other side of it. Here is what I know now, after everything. Quiet people are not weak people. Silence is not the same as absence. And the person sitting in the corner of the room, the one you think you know, the one you think you can dismiss, the one you think is easy to erase, you almost never know their whole story. Nadia looked at me and saw the girl she had grown up with, the quiet sister, the invisible one. She never stopped to ask who I had become. That was not my failure. That was hers. And here is the other thing I know. Revenge, real revenge, lasting revenge, is never something you take in anger. It's something that arrives quietly, after years of becoming someone your enemies didn't see coming. I did not plan what happened that night. I did not arrange the salute or script the silence in that corridor. But I had spent years becoming someone capable of standing still in that moment, someone who did not need to shout, someone who did not need to explain herself, or justify herself, or prove herself. I had already done all of that, in rooms she would never be allowed into, in uniform she would never get to see. And when the moment came, I was simply ready. She thought she had me. She didn't know who I was.